I got the night shift at McDonald's. I had to start it. I had been living through the foster homes for most of my life, and some were good, but some were really bad. They were messy, and sometimes a lot of them were straight up abusive, and it was a system that I wanted to get out of. I wasn't going to spend my days living in a house that probably doesn't want me, so I decided to fend for myself. I was going to be 18 in a few months. That would mean I would be out in the world without any safety net. So I was training myself to the real horrors of the world from when I was 15. And that is when I got the night shift at the McDonald's. I thought the best way to learn about all these horror would night. Then the weirdest of creatures all tread to do all kind of sinister things. The first month working there was pretty cool. The sinister element that I exaggeratingly thought of wasn't really there. It was mostly sketchy people and characters looking odd and lurking in the dark alleyways, smoking and drinking. But nothing ever happened that could be said sinister. I waited all night. I was doing less of the work that I was giving and lurking more outwardly to the windows in hopes that something nasty would happen and I would get to experience it and know about it. I was naive in the approach of it, all like a kid excited by all the anticipation. I was almost every moment on an alert, trying to look out for trouble. One day, one of the men who was a regular customer to this McDonald's joint said, "Boy, you always look out in those alleyways from the window. Why are you doing that?" And I told him, "I'm just looking for trouble. I want to experience the rush." And he said, "Oh, you a kid right now. You don't look for trouble. Trouble finds you. And then it won't be the rush you feel, but shock and pain. Trouble is nasty and unpredictable like that." I looked at the old man and took in his words. He wasn't wrong about that. I was doing my usual day shift when Miguel, who was a regular too, came in and greeted me. "What's up, homeboy? What we cooking today? Can I get them nuggets and that OG Big Mac?" He was with a girl, and his arm was around her waist. She was a curvy woman, and his hands were busy caressing her curves. And then he looked at me, noticing his girl, and he said, "That's right, G, you can look at her. She fine as hell." And I smiled at him, and he knew that I was harmless. And then he started kissing her in front of the counter. The McDonald's only had them two and the old man in today, so it was just me and the kitchen crew, and the old man and Miguel and his girl. It was very quiet there, and only noise that was heard was the aggressive kissing noises of Miguel and his girl. I called in the order of the old man, and he took the order and sat down on the table, and he said, "Can I get some more of the Szechuan hot sauce, boy?" And I replied wittingly, "Seems like you are the one looking for trouble, huh?" The old man laughed, and he took the sauce and sat on the very seat he was at. Then a few minutes and Miguel's order was ready, but he just won't buzz. They had been kissing for 10 minutes now, and then I said the only thing he ever called me was I looked at him and called him, "Yo, Miguel, my G, your order is ready." Miguel was smiling as he came over to pick up the order, and we clicked fingers and they all sat down enjoying their meal. Miguel with his girl, the old man with his newspaper. The kitchen staff was working on the inside, and I was standing alone on the counter, thinking of scenarios. And suddenly, somebody walked through the door, and then two other followed. It was a moment of rush, and I realized what is going on. The old man dropped his burger and looked at me, and it seemed like he was trying to talk to me with his eyes, telling me, "Boy, the trouble found you." The three men came in with a shotgun, hurling it in the air, and took 2 shots in the window and said, "Act smart, you die. Do as you're told." One of the men, probably the boss, came towards me and handed me a bag and said, "Drop in all the cash in here." And I replied, "The bag is too big." He looked confused and said, "The hell you said? You just do as you're told." So I did. I took the cash and dropped all of it in his bag. I knew it was too light and the bag still had space, so instead of all the money, I dropped in paper napkins in his bag. I filled it with paper napkins and tied the bag before handing it to him. He looked at me and said, "All right, now get us 3 Big Macs and 2 cold ones." I replied, "We don't have beer, sir." He looked at me and said, "Coke will do." And I got their order ready and very calmly said, "Your order is ready." And at this point, they were circling around Miguel and his girl. I took their order and went to their table and said, "Sir, your order is ready." And the man said, What are you waiting for? A thank you note? Get out of my face, asshole! He nudged me away as his hand was caressing Miguel's girlfriend, and then from the distance I said, Sir, your order has been done for go. You can take your order, it is packed. I guess the man was angry and annoyed by me intruding him and his boys trying to molest that girl. The man jumped forward, forgetting about Miguel, and took his shotgun and placed it right in between my eyes. Would it be worth dying for McDonald's? Tell me, asshole. And then I said, I've made your order for go. The store a block down has called in the police. They heard the shotguns. So if you leave right now, you can make it out without chase with all that cash and a nice McDonald's meal. I've also put the Happy Meal toy in. He looked at me, and I guess he was intimidated by the calmness he could see in my eyes, like I was the no bullshit guy. And he calmed down, propped his gun, looked at his boys and said, All right, let's scoot. We're done here, boys. Let's go. They left. I was calm and chill. The old man looked at me and said, You either have massive balls or you just a psychopath. Miguel looked at me and appreciated me through his eyes. I comforted his girlfriend, got her the nice hot beverage we made in the kitchen, and her next meal was on us. The old man looked at me and said, Boy, trouble got nothing on you. He looked at the cash register and paid me a tip. I returned to it. Go on, take it. You just got robbed. I smiled at him and said, The store got robbed. I am fine. They all definitely not forgetting the night at the McDonald's, and neither will those two idiots who think there's money in their bag. At least they will have enough napkins to wipe their ass in jail. The owner never understood why I left even after hailing a hero and being promoted. Well, you see, when I was filling the bag of the thieves with napkins, I filled another envelope with all the cash. So the reality of the trouble was that the burglars got away with the napkins, while I got away with all the cash. That was just a little heist that I pulled off in McDonald's when I was 15. I have a lot of stories about such hustles. I am 30 now, almost 15 years from my first hustle, the hustle at McDonald's. I got $2,500 from it. And now the new hustle that I am doing will cash me in $25 million. So yes, if trouble is looking for me, tell it I'm on an island on the coast of Greece. Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so. This happened when I was a bartender about 4 years ago, but I think about it often, and it has changed the way I operate throughout life. I now refuse to go to any store alone after midnight. I was 25 and an attractive slender blonde at the time. On a busy Friday night, I was bartending with the bar manager, and he had noticed that we were very low on some bar necessities after the dinner rush. Lemons, limes, bitters, that kind of thing. So I was sent out to a 24-hour grocery store down the road to pick up the odds and ends that we would require to get us through the weekend. I picked up everything that was asked of me without trouble at the store, until I got to the liquor aisle. There were two country-looking guys that were probably around my age in the aisle, and they were staring at me and whispering to each other in a way that made me uncomfortable, so I assumed they were making comments about me, all pretty innocent so far. Before they could approach me, I grabbed what I needed very quickly and power walked to the self-checkout. They really booked it out of there, because when you're a bartender, it's kind of like you're on a stage and are required to be charming and interact with people that you otherwise absolutely wouldn't be able to tolerate unless you were being paid to do so. This is another reason why I'm not a bartender anymore. They get the self-checkout and hot on my tail. The two guys, I'm scanning my stuff, and they use the scanning station next to me. I get a better look at them now as they are right next to me. One is taller, muscular, an average look. The other one is shorter and more plump. They both looked dirty, and their eyes were completely bloodshot. I'm not even sure if they were high or something, or had already been drinking for a while. They continued to stare at me, and our eyes awkwardly met. So I did the pleasant Midwestly thing to do and flashed them a quick, half-fast, closed-lip smile to be polite. The taller one starts trying to talk to me. Hey, looks like you're ready to party. Huh? I replied something like, yeah, something like that. It's not for me though. They walk close to me and ignore their responsibility to scan their items. Oh, must be for your boyfriend. Ha! I flash the awkward tight-lipped smile again and roll my eyes slightly. Like this is your hint that I'm not interested, fellas. The taller one continues to try to talk to me. You should come hang out with us tonight. We could show you a real good time if you know what I mean. No thanks, I'm good. Already have plans. But the taller one starts to get upset that his moves aren't working like he'd hoped, and starts using a more threatening tone and moves very close to me, literally 2 inches away. But I ignore him, staying focused on the scanner. I don't think he had showered in a few days by the smell of him. He gets a little louder and says, I see how it is. You probably only screw doctors and rich men like that. You think you're too good for us. We can show you that you want. We can teach you a lesson. Now I'm not sure what context he meant this in, but it definitely wasn't good. Still looking at him, I turn away. So my body is blocking his view of my purse, which I set on the scanner to grab my 4-inch pocket knife out and slide it up my jacket sleeve in case I need to protect myself, acting like I'm searching for my wallet. I do this, however, in view of the self-scan worker stationed at the podium, and look at her eyes with wide eyes trying to communicate that I do not feel safe and that I might need help. I turn back to the machine and slide my credit card to pay, while the creepy and hostile guys are practically standing on top of me. The machine malfunctions and starts beeping. The lady worker comes over immediately, and the guys standing next to me change their expression from I'm planning to torture you for a few days and toss your body to a creek to just your friendly good old country boys making polite conversation of their hair. They actually tried to act like I knew them and were friends, so the worker wouldn't be alerted to their ill intentions. They tried joking with the worker, saying I was stealing something and that's why the machine went off. The worker was definitely not buying it. She was a 6-foot-tall woman with some muscle on her. I wouldn't mess with her on my best day. She pressed a few buttons on the screen, shooting. The guys a very unimpressed look when they were trying to act charming and cancels the order completely. She turns to me and says, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am. The machine seems to not be working correctly. Will you gather your things and I'll ring you up at an actual register? She puts her hand on my back and gives me a wide-eyed look like I gave her a minute earlier, letting me know that she sees I'm in danger. I pick up my things and follow her to the register that's near the security office. The guys linger around the self-scan, still glaring at me, and eventually complete their purchases, but standing at the exit assuming they're waiting for me. I felt like I would be walking to my death. If I made it to the exit in that moment, the workers kept a close eye on the guys and scans my items. As she's scanning, she tells me there really wasn't anything wrong with the machine I was using. It just misread my credit card, and she said I had a bad feeling about those guys from the moment they walked in. And when I saw them getting aggressive toward you, I already ranked security to be ready to walk you to the parking lot and make sure you left safely when you're ready to leave. When I saw you take that knife out and put it in your sleeve, getting ready to protect yourself. Good girl. As much as I'd like to see you show them they picked the wrong girl to mess with, I'm glad I was able to pull you aside and make sure you were safe. I see them waiting by the door for you. I'll just keep pressing buttons on the screen and act like I'm having trouble with your order until they give up and go outside. Our security officer and I are both going to escort you to your vehicle when you leave. I thought to myself, this woman seriously deserves a raise. I thanked her over and over again and told her what they said to me, and I was getting afraid because I don't know what these guys are capable of. As I'm talking to her, my bar manager calls me to see what's taking so long. I explain what's happening, and he was obviously very concerned and ready to come up there himself and kick some ass. A sweet sentiment indeed. By the time I hung up, the guys had given up and walked out to the parking lot. The worker said to give it another few minutes because she had a feeling they may still be in there waiting for me to walk out and see which vehicle was mine so they could follow me. My instant thought was no way they have to be gone by now. But I was wrong. The worker and security guard escorted me out, and it was after midnight, so you can imagine how empty the lot was. Toward the back of the lot, there sat an old big pickup truck running with the lights on pointing towards the store. It was a huge parking lot, and it wouldn't have made sense for them to initially park like that, so I'm assuming they moved the truck to sit that way, so that they had a full view of when I exited the store and got to my vehicle. It was like being stalked by hungry lions. When I unlocked my car and they saw that me, the worker, and the guard were looking directly at them and that I wasn't getting in my car until we watched them leave, they then peeled out of the parking lot. I mean, they seriously did a burnout to establish that they were pissed and trying to intimidate us. Our poor creeps didn't get their way. I thanked the worker and the guard over and over again, as I'm certain that they had just saved my life, or at least saved me from having to live with whatever those guys were planning to do with me. I did write a long letter to the store manager and their corporate location, describing how their employees protected me and how grateful I was. I really hope that earned her a promotion bonus raise or something. She didn't know me at all and was ready to protect me, which really isn't her job, but she did it anyway. Needless to say, I do not go late night shopping by myself anymore, and never will again. I was about 14 years old, and my family had just moved to a new town. I was also lucky enough to make a fast friend at my new school, and we subsequently made plans to go trick-or-treating together since it was coming up to Halloween night. Because we were 14 and lived in a fairly safe neighborhood, my parents told us that they didn't think I needed to chaperone that year. So while everything was going great and we were having fun getting some solid candy, it was kind of cool just walking around our own, feeling sort of grown up. We knock at one house and this middle-aged man opened the door. He seemed happy to see my new friend and me, so I assumed we were in for some great A candy. I don't actually remember what candy he handed out, but I didn't remember what happened next. He asked us to come inside, which is weird, but we really wanted candy. So I guess we were dumb enough to take the bait. It disappears for a moment, and I kind of assumed that he was going to get us some candy. But when he re-emerges, he doesn't have any, only a camera in his hand. Then he asked if he could take a couple of pictures of us, explaining they liked to take photos of kids every Halloween because he loved seeing the costumes, how he was something of a collector. At this point, even being a fairly naive 14-year-old, I got weirded out, yet knew it was best not to upset the man and let them take the picture, and then we could leave. So he takes the photo of us, waits for the Polaroid to come out, then he hands us a pen, asks us to sign our names on the back. Me and my new friend did as we were told, but although we'd been dumb enough to actually go into this guy's house with him, we weren't dumb enough to sign our actual names, so we wrote fake ones on the back just to satisfy him. Only then were we allowed to leave with the candy that he gave us after we signed. I don't know if this guy was on some sort of list or some sort of offender or anything like that. There were no more run-ins with them, and nothing in the way of rumors going around town. But I still get creeped out thinking about what he did with that photo of me.